zoom my recording real quick and share my screen, the correct screen. There we go. So y'all should be seeing the D2L page. All right. Awesome. Checked. And all your beautiful nameplates. Okay. So real quick, on D2L, go ahead and give this exercise 2 double identity files a good old download. It's a whole bunch of little video files. It's in the in-class files section. Shouldn't take terribly long to download. This is what we're going to be using in class today, as well as for your homework. And we'll probably use it a couple more times in the next week or so. So go ahead and give that a good old download. And then once you get that download, go ahead and open up Premiere. Now this first part of the lecture that we're going to have is mostly just going to be me showing you kind of where certain buttons are, similar to like what we did with After Effects and Premiere, kind of go over the whole thing. So if it's still downloading while I'm going over this part, that's perfectly fine. But if at any point you guys need me to pause for a minute, just start yelling in the chat or use your voice and be like, hold on a moment. But I will check before we start putting stuff and importing things in to see if anyone is still downloading. So when you open up Premiere, what you should get is something that kind of looks like this. So you'll have an overall Premiere kind of grayed out main window, and then you'll have this little kind of home window, similar to like what After Effects and Photoshop have. It's got the home button, it's got a learn button that you can click to get tutorials. It's also got a new project, open project, open Premiere Rush. This is like the smaller version of Premiere. There's like a actual phone app you can use that uses Rush. If you're going to be using a team project, you can create a new one or open one. And then you also have your recent section here, as well as other tutorials and how-tos. So the last one I opened was my demo reel stuff. I was testing it to see if certain things were working. So this is the last Premiere project I opened on this computer. If you come in here physically, sometimes it might change depending on what you've used on your account or the computer itself. So I know at home, I've got like 30 projects that pop up right here in the recent, where on this computer, I only have the one. Andrew, no, it is the exercise 2 double identity files is what you should have. If you downloaded the Premiere one, that's what we're going to be using next class. So you want this one, exercise 2. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project, something brand new. And what should happen, if it pops up on the correct screen, is you'll get this little new project window. This is your settings for the project. Most of these are going to work pretty well, but there are some things you can change to get the best results for your computer as well as for your project. So up here, first thing is we have name. I'm just going to type in day Premiere. You can title it whatever you like. Your location is where is it going to be saved. So currently mine is going to save to my faculty personal section. That's perfectly fine. If I wanted to be like, no, I want to save this to my documents, I could do that as well. Your rendering and playback renderer. So currently mine is the Mercury Playback Engine GPU Acceleration, or CUDA. This is how things are being processed by Premiere on playback. If you don't have CUDA, but you have OpenCL. This is kind of the newest version, is that CUDA uses your graphics card. If you have an older computer, try using one of those other playback engines like software or the OpenCL. You might get better playback. It might not be so iffy, you might not get any glitches, and your Premiere will probably crash less. I know on my home computer in my office, I have it on OpenCL, and on my actual personal one, I have it on software only. So just depending on your computer, you might get better results with a different one. But for here, I'm gonna leave it on this CUDA here. Your video format, this is just how it's being displayed. Do you want time code, feet based off of frames, 16 millimeter or 35, or just frames? Time code for us works great. If you're gonna be doing something like stop motion where you need to see each individual frame, frames works pretty well. And if you're gonna be working with actual reeled footage, where you're gonna be shooting on actual film, the feet per frames is what you would use. But I'm gonna leave mine on time code. Your display format for your audio is just how do you want it displayed? Do you want it in samples or milliseconds? Samples works pretty good. And then your capture format, this is the type of video format you want. So do you want high def or standard definition? We want high def. And then your color management, this is pretty standard. I wouldn't change this. You're not going to get too much of a difference changing it. Other things you need to know are this is where your scratch discs are located. This is like your temp folder that we used, your cache in After Effects. Personally, I like having all of these here saved to a temp folder. On my home computer, I would just go browse, take this to the D drive, put all of these into temp. I highly recommend doing this as it will save you time, frustration, etc. And it doesn't take too long. And then once you've set it up, you don't have to worry about it again. And then this way, if it gets too full and it's like, hey, your scratch discs are full, you just go to your D drive or wherever you've put this temp folder and delete that temp folder. And you've lost nothing of importance. And then your ingest setting, this is just how you like to have things brought in. Standard is great. I'm just gonna hit OK. And Premiere is gonna think and then open up its display. So just like with Premiere, just like with Photoshop, there are different viewport window types. Currently, I am set into color. This means I have a color node over here. So you can see I have Lumetri color. I've got my project is here. My timeline is here. This is my audio gain. So this allows me to see how loud or soft my audio is. This is the project that would be exported. And this is the source side over here. So over here is where you can change the actual image or you can view the actual footage. You can change the scale here, your effects controls, and your clip audio mixer. We'll look all at that in a moment. Just be aware this is kind of where your source side is, and this is the side that's being rendered. But we have other different types of buttons up here. So if you're going to do something effects-based, you can use the effects tab. If you want to do something a little bit more audio-based, you can do audio. Same with graphics if you're going to do text. Editing is one we'll mostly use in this class. It's the one that will give you the most space up here. We'll shift to that one. All it does is adds a little bit more space here and here, but feel free to change any of this as you see fit based off of your own screen size and needs. There's also assembly, which gives you a larger side over here to import more media and look at more media. And learning, just like in Photoshop and After Effects, just gives you more tutorials kind of on the side. So for right now, I'm just going to stay on assembly. I'm going to switch between assembly and editing a lot in class. If for some reason you're switching between these and down here flashes like a little red warning sign and then it won't change, all that means is you just need to restart your Premiere. Your scratch disc might be full, that sort of thing. So I'm going to stay over here in assembly. First thing we want to look at is file. This is that standard, just like every program, file save, file new, open project. You can also import from here. I'm going to go ahead and import one of those files that we were downloading from D2L. If it's not done downloading, that's okay. But you do want to make sure it is unzipped from its zip folder. If it's still zipped, Premiere won't see it. It'll just be like, I see that there's something there, but I'm not going to let you click it. So I'm going to hit import here, which will bring me to here. You can also right click anywhere in this kind of dark space in your project tab and import, just like we can in After Effects. Or if you want something a little quicker, there it is. If you have your file folder already open, you're like, I know I want this one right here. You can click and drag and drop it in, and it'll import it. Any of them that you want. No, there's no specific one. If you don't want to do this 001 NM_1, you can do 0001L9 or 000113_1, whichever one you want. Huh? Is everyone with me with something imported, just the one video clip? You can do all of them if you want. I'm just going to do one for right now. Alrighty. Thanks, Benjamin. So in file, we can also sync to online things. We can capture new video or audio. We can also make certain things offline. So if you have a video file that you know is working, but if you move computers, it's not going to be there, you can make it offline. That way it still has its spot on your timeline. It's just not going to play anything. You can also import from recent, so it'll take me to that same file right there. This is where we'll export. We'll do this together a little bit today, or I'll at least show you how this works. You'll just go export and media, and then it'll open up the export window, which is very similar to the one we used to export from After Effects. And you can also change any of your project settings right here as well, the general, the scratch disk, the ingest settings. And if you need it, the project manager is right here, which just says, hey, where are things located? Copy them to new locations, consolidate things, etc. Edit is also pretty standard. This is your undo, redo. Control Z lets you undo. Control Shift Z lets you redo. Cut, copy, paste. You can clear things by hitting backspace. Ripple deleting, which we'll talk about in a moment, is Shift Delete. You can also duplicate things. You can deselect everything. You can select everything. You can find certain things. And you can also look at the different colors for your labels here. Something that's really nice is there is a remove unused button. So if you import a lot of files into your project and you're like, I only use like 3, but I have all these ones and I'm not sure which one I'm using because they're all named and labeled weird. You can click remove unused and it'll delete everything you haven't used in your project. This is cool. I like it. When you're working on really hard or long projects that use a lot of clips and they give you even more clips than you use, this is a very invaluable button. And then we come to what everyone knows and loves is the preferences. So let's take a look at those. These are all still pretty standard. Your general is how are certain things being displayed at startup. So do you want to start at the home screen or just your most recent project? Do you want to open the dialog box or the home? What other sort of tooltips do you want visible? The appearance, do you want things to have a darker or brighter background? Do you want the tools themselves to be highlighted super light or super dull? And do you want the focus, which is the little box, to be brighter or dull? I'm going to leave mine brighter just so you guys can see it a little better in here. Your audio is how is it being matched? What channels are they playing on? Are they showing front, rear, right, left, etc.? Most of these are going to be pretty standard and nice. Your audio hardware is very important. If for whatever reason, you know in your brain and in your heart that you are working on something on one computer and the sound is awesome, it's perfect, it's doing its thing, and you move to another computer and it stops working, check your audio hardware. It's probably looking for a different speaker that doesn't exist. So as you can see on mine, I have 4 different outputs. I'm not sure if this one's going to be the correct one for this computer. We'll find out in a minute. But it might be that I need to use this other one here, maybe this Realtek or speakers. So if you're ever working on something and your audio just stops working, check here. It's probably just your output is looking for something that doesn't exist. Autosave, you can turn this off and on. You can change its time for when it'll automatically save, be it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours, etc. Capture, do you just want to have it to report that it's dropping frames, that sort of thing. Generate batch files, etc. Your collaboration, if you're ever working on a team project inside of Premiere, if you need to know when you need to have any reminders for things or warn when someone's closing the project, this is just where all that is. Your control surface, you won't have to worry about this. This is some weird stuff. Your device control, again, this is something you won't have to worry about. It's just saying like, hey, what device are we using? Your graphics are actually your text format, just like with the others. Are you using European, East Asian, or South Asian, Middle Eastern characters? Your labels are also very important. Depending on these colors, we'll show you exactly like what color object are you bringing in. So currently, all my video files are going to be this violet. So if I drag this over into my timeline, its video will show up as violet on the timeline. So it'll be this violet bar. If you're like, I don't like that, I want it to be like this mango color, you can say, hey, I want my video to be mango. You can just automatically change it. All of this is personal preference. This is really nice, especially if you're working on things and you're mildly colorblind or have issues with certain colors being visible. You can change these to match your own preferences. For media, this is just how things are automatically being seen and shown inside of here. What do you want your time base to be? What's the time code, etc. If you notice things are doing weird stuff and it's crashing or not playing properly on your, if you're using an older computer, try turning these off or on. Something in here might be weird. Your media cache, again, this is your cache. You want to put this in that D drive temp folder. Same with this one. So mine's already set to there. You do want to delete these pretty regularly, just like with After Effects, so that it doesn't get too full and slow down your Premiere. Your memory, this is again how much RAM you have and how much is allocated for any given After Effects, Premiere, Photoshop, that sort of thing. Your playback is just how is it playing back. If you're also noticing things are going weird with playback, try enabling or disabling this Mercury transmit. And then your sync settings, timeline, and trim are all pretty standard as well. So I'm just going to say OK. Your clip, this is everything that's related to your video footage. So you can rename things, you can change its source settings, you can modify it with audio channels, interpreted footage, or timecode. If you're bringing in something from Maya or Blender or any other exported image sequence, make sure you interpret your footage to make sure that your frame rate's the correct one. It will always pretty much automatically bring it in as 29 or 30 frames a second. If you're bringing it in from Maya, 24 is what it's being shown inside of your program, so it's coming in faster. So make sure you change that up so that things play at the correct speed. You can also change the speed or duration of your clip if you need it to be slower or faster, that sort of thing. You can also replace the footage. So if you're like, hey, this clip right here is not the clip I need, I can go, hey, let's replace that with a different one. So now I have a different clip. There's some other stuff that's in here, but we will look at that when it's actually on the timeline. Your sequence, this is everything about your sequence. Currently, we don't have a sequence because there's nothing on the timeline. If I wanted to create a new sequence, I could come over here, drag my footage in, and it'll automatically create me a sequence. We can tell that this right here is a sequence because it's got a little kind of bar design here, whereas this one has a footage and audio bar right here. So with this sequence, we can now go into our sequence settings. We can see that we're playing at 23 frames a second, 24-ish frames a second. Our width is 1280 by 720, so it's not quite that 1080p. But these are all of our actual settings for inside of our timeline here. This is also what we can change about it, so we can match a frame rate. We can do some edits. We can add transitions for audio and video from right here. You can also delete or add tracks. This is a track. Your markers, this is where are you marking that certain things are happening. So you can mark in or out. So if I go I and O, this is the play range. It'll still play the whole thing, but this is the focus area of our Premiere. You can add a normal marker with M. So let's say right here, I want to mark that this dude is about to come in. I'm also going to mute my track here. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm just going to hit this little M button right here on my audio to mute it. So if I want to know, like right here is where he comes in, maybe I'm going to change my angle, change the footage up to a different scene or a different shot. So I have a little marker right here. So I can double click on this little marker and it'll bring up this little thing right here. So I can be like, guy appears. Change angle. So maybe I have a different clip in here that I would put here instead of letting it continue on that one shot to add a little bit more of a dynamic appearance. I can also change the color. So if I'm like, I really don't like this kind of greenish color, I want this orange one. I think this one will mean change scene. If I tell it okay, my marker is now orange right here. And we can take a look at where we can change markers and take a look at things over here. So we can go to a marker, we can add markers, we can go to a previous marker, we can clear markers and we can edit them, etc. here. We can change the fonts that are in here with the graphics section. This is all the text stuff. View, this is pretty standard. How are you seeing your playback? Do you need to see any guides or rulers or anything like that? And your view is all of the different buttons and sections to your Premiere that you could ever want to see. If for some reason something happens in your toolbar, which is just this little box right here in the middle, disappears, you can turn this off or on. Turn off. It's not gonna let me turn off. But if it disappears, you can just turn this back on. And then you can also change your workspaces here as well. So I'm going to go to editing. I could also click right here. Also, if something goes weird and wonky, you can come over here to workspace. Like let's say for some reason, this whole section over here gets all messed up. You can reset your layout and it'll just reset it to default right here. So if you're like, I changed so much stuff, now it won't let me fix it. Just reset it, it'll work. You can also save as a new workspace. So if you have a setup that you really like, maybe you've got 4 monitors and you want one on each part of your monitor, you can save a new layout workspace and it'll just save it for you. Okay, and then help, obviously, if you have problems or need to get into your account, it's all here. So other buttons we need to look at. I'll make these a little bigger here. So over here, this is our project settings, that big assembly section is what we had right here. If you notice, I have my video clip here and then my sequence. If I scrub on them really slowly, I can play my entire video back. It's kind of like a tiny little miniature to make sure this is the clip that I want. I have noticed in my experience that on older computer boxes or computer boxes with less RAM, this will crash your Premiere. It's been a while since I've seen it happen, but I know it has happened to people in the past. If it does that to you, if you click this little button right here, it's just a list view. I also personally like the list view. It lets me read things. So I know that this one is my sequence and this one is my clip. It's the same as this one, except instead of seeing a playback, it's a list. I can read it. There's also this other one, which is the same thing, but a little bigger, with slightly different things on them. But I'm just going to leave mine on list view because personally I like it more. It's also a little easier to read and understand. We then have our media browser. This is like a little Explorer window inside of your Premiere. So if you don't know where something is, you can look through here if you don't want to have to open up another Explorer window. Your libraries, this is all the libraries that you have based off of the Autodesk, or not Autodesk, this isn't Autodesk, this is Adobe. All your Adobe stuff, so if you've imported some templates or anything like that, they'll be here. The info is just what is the information known about the clip you have selected. So currently mine is movie type, it's 24 frames a second. That's its audio size, this is how long it is, etc. Your effects, this is all the cool stuff you can add to your clips themselves. You've got color correction, you've got presets like filters, you've got audio transitions, video effects, video transitions, all the cool stuff located in here. We'll look at some of these next class, but if you want to look through them today, you most certainly may. Then we have our markers section. So currently nothing is selected here, but if I click orange, it should show up here. I don't know why it's not. There it is. I gotta have my sequence selected. So you can see I have one here. If I click on this, I'm here. I can click over here, add another one. You'll see here's another one and another one. It does put them into timeline. You know what I'm talking about. They're in order, timeline order, as well as color. And you can be like, I only want to see the green ones, or I only want to see the orange ones, or I want to see both, or I want to see white ones, but I don't have any white ones. So the white ones, there just aren't any. So you can go through here and use your markers like this. If you want to get rid of a marker, you can right click on it. Clear marker, etc. Now we also have our history. So if we're like, hey, I know that I messed up at some point. I want to go back and see where. Maybe I want to go all the way back to like this set marker time here. I can click on that, and so long as I don't create something new or move something, I can go back and change things as needed. So if I want to go back to where I changed this marker orange, I can do that, and then whenever I do something new, like move this, it overwrites the rest of my history. So I could say I want to go all the way back to new. I could do that. I'm not going to, but I could. We will. Why not? All right, so I'm going to come over here to my project, and I'm just going to import all of these video clips right here. So I know mine are in here, there, exercises, double identity. And I'm just going to click the top one, click the last one with Shift, and I can import as many clips as I want all at the same time. So I'm just going to import all of these videos. Till it open, it's going to do a good old think. Now I have all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and click all of these and put them into my timeline. So I just dragged all of them, so it puts all of them in here, just in alphabetical, whatever's here, order. Is this the correct order? Maybe. Probably not, though. Let's see, if we scrub through here, I'm going to mute this so you guys don't hear god-awful weirdness coming from my speaker. So it doesn't look like they're in order. We got some multiple different things here. So the homework that you guys are going to have is actually to put these in order, cut, trim, and do different things with them to make it look like a story with whatever kind of theme you want to go with. But there's a couple of other things you do need to know. So inside of our timeline here, we do have our, export view here. Should you need to zoom this out, there is a little zoom out here or fit. The scroll wheel does not zoom in, it pans on your timeline. It goes frame by frame. Here's your marker, your mark in, your mark out. This will go to the very beginning of your timeline. This will go to the very end. This is play in reverse, play forward, your play button. And then these are just different parts of the editing process that for this class, you don't need to worry about too much. But we do have lift your footage, extract footage, export specific frames, and compare views. So if you do want to look at those, that's what they are. They're pretty self-explanatory. If you want to lift a piece of footage, it will lift it, but you can also just click and drag it to lift it on your timeline as well. So if you're like, I want this one to be above everything, I want this one to be middle, I want this audio here to be the lowest audio, you can shift things and move things to overlap stuff as needed. Now, your tools that you have at your disposal for in here. This is your overall selection tool, V on the keyboard, just like it is in After Effects, just like it is in Photoshop. It allows you to click and move things on timelines. So you can see I lifted this so I can lift them apart. The next tool is your track forward or backward tool. How this works is it says, hey, everything that is from where I click back, I want to move. If you click and hold, you have the opposite track select backward tool. Everywhere that you've clicked backward will move. Next is your ripple editing tools. So ripple edit works pretty well. It allows you to see between the two clips to see where things are going, and it'll allow you to automatically move stuff down or forward on the timeline as needed. So if you're like, I really want everything to shift this way, let's say maybe like between these two clips, I want the car to be coming in about here-ish. Here-ish. So they play a little bit closer to what would actually be seen. There's also a rolling edit, which works similar, and rate stretch, which also works similar. Rate stretch stretches things instead of clipping them down. And rolling edit just allows it to shift back and forth on the timeline without deleting things. We'll come back to this tool. Me and this tool throw hands. The flip tool also works kind of similar to the ripple tools. It allows you to, see what certain things are happening between two different clips. Your pen tool allows you to draw shapes and mask. So currently I drew a gray shape. If you were working with an opacity in your effects control, so if I were to come over here, click this tool and had my opacity selected, there's also a pen tool in here, so we could make a mask which would make certain parts visible or invisible. We will have a class day just specifically about this. I think it's next class or the class after that. The class after that, so it'll be not this week, but next week or the week after. But we'll have a full day on that, but feel free if you want to play with some opacity tools in here. We also have the hand tool. This allows you to move on your timeline. Sometimes it'll let you move up here if it's like super zoomed out. We also have the zoom tool. So if you want to zoom in on a specific frame, you can do that. You can also zoom in or out with this little bar at the bottom. It's got two little circles here. You can zoom that all the way out or all the way in as needed. And then we have the text tool. You can click and write what you like. And then there's also a vertical tool. So if you wanted to do up and down letters, that is also available. All right, so that's all of your tools except for this one. This is the razor tool. You'll hear me call it the cut tool because the original name it was called long time ago when I was first learning Premiere was called the cut tool, cutting tool, which makes sense because its shortcut key is a C for cutting tool. But they wanted to rebrand it as the razor tool. Don't know why, because they changed the little logo here to be a razor blade. But how it works is, let's say I have this first clip here, right here, and I want to cut out all this empty space here before she runs across. So there's two ways I could do this. I could click the beginning of my timeline and scroll it in. That will trim it. Or we could cut it with this cutting tool. Click where our timeline is. Switch back to our selection tool. We can click on that, just hit the little delete key, and it will remove it. Now, it's not gone forever. If you're like, oh no, I cut off a little bit more than I wanted, you can go back over here with the selection tool and untrim as much as needed. So if you're like, yeah, maybe I didn't want to like untrim the whole thing, you can pull that right back out. This is really good for if like in the middle here, I wanted to remove like from here to here. I could click where I wanted it to start, where I wanted it to end. Click this middle spot, remove it. This might not be the correct clip at all. But if I wanted to put a clip in the middle, between this clip and this clip, I could do that. I could just drag that, put it in the middle, and let it do its thing. Now, other buttons in here. If you notice on our timeline, we have all these little things over here. I already showed you the mute track button. This allows you to mute the audio of any given video. For this homework, you might want to mute your audio while you're editing and then turn it back on later, but I will not be grading your audio, so you don't even have to turn it in with audio when we get to that point. So you don't have to worry about that. If you just want to mute it, never have to worry about it, you can do that. These locks mean, hey, let's lock this layer. Pretty much it says, hey, I can't click. You can do that with the video layers, with the audio layers as needed. Audio 1, 2, and 3 is what the A1, 2, and 3 stand for. Video 1, 2, and 3 are what these stand for. Pretty much what this means is if you're importing a new track, this is the one it's going to go with first. So if I were to bring in something over here, if I don't manually drag it onto a different one, it will automatically over input on this V1, which may or may not cut into some of my footage. So just be aware. It's also easiest to come over here. So you can see right here's V1, 2. So what's V1? Down here. And this is just enabling video quality. We also have our sync. So do you want to have some syncing? For you guys, you shouldn't have to worry about this too much, but if you have lots of different clips, syncing can help quite a bit. And then we have our visibility. So if I don't want to see this entire line, I can toggle this eyeball off and on. So that video is just not there. Now you might notice, I'm not gonna do it because the last time I did this, it made like hell noises. There's this little microphone here. How this works is, let's say you wanted to dub over something. Maybe I wanted to dub over what's happening here. You can click this little voiceover record button and it will record your audio. So you can be like, this person's doing this thing, they're gonna do another thing, they're doing this other thing. You can click that and it'll record in real time. It'll give you a little countdown, that sort of thing. It's pretty fun to play with. I definitely recommend just playing with it once and then deleting it if you're like me and hate listening to your own person talk. This is here in case you do need it. These other buttons here are different things. So this first one is insert or overwrite sequences or nests and clips. So if I turn this off, you'll see it overwrites things. Turning this off and on will just allow you to have a little bit more control with that. The snap is this little magnet, just snaps things to the timeline. If you notice, when I move this, it snaps between clips, at the end of clips, at the beginning of clips. If you're like, no, I don't want that, I want it to be just a little bit before the end, you can turn that off if you don't need that snap. And then just link selection. Do you want your audio and your video to be selected at the same time or just one at a time? You can turn that off to select individual pieces. And then again, adding markers and just changing the display settings here. Other tiny small things down here, there is a bin or a new folder. So if you're like, I want all of my videos to be inside of this folder, I can click all of my videos except for my timeline sequence here, put them inside that folder. And when I minimize it, I have a videos folder and my sequence. This helps a lot when you're trying to figure out what's a sequence and what's a video, especially if you're using this view, because now everything in here is a video. Everything out here is a sequence. You can also create a new item. This could be a new sequence, a new shortcut, an offline file, an adjustment layer, which works very similar to the ones inside of Photoshop, except instead of having a set adjustment like levels, color correction, white balance, that sort of thing, you can put as many in there as you want. It's kind of like an empty layer. Do you want a bar and tone? Do you want some black video? Do you want to add any captions? Do you need a color matte, which is just a black video, except you can pick any color you want? Do you want an HD bar and video or bar and tone, which is just better than the normal bar and tune because it's HD? And do you want to add a counting leader or a transparent or clear video, which is kind of like a placeholder video, which also is the same as offline file. It'll just say something different. So to show you that, if you need an offline file, or if something is offline, it'll look like this. So if it can't find something that it's looking for, it'll give you this. Sometimes it'll show this at the beginning when you first open up your project. Give it a minute or two. Sometimes it just likes to think. But if you ever see this, that just means it can't find your footage. So I'm going to delete that. Okay. Also, if you need to delete anything, there's a little delete button. Clear backspace. Questions at all about anything in here so far?
I do have a question.
Yes.
When you rename the clips in the folder on the left, does it rename them in the timeline?
It should.
Okay.
So if I come over here, rename, I call this like feet. This is feet. So over here somewhere, there should be a feet, but it might not. It should. Last I checked, it did, but that might be a new thing that it's doing. Doesn't look like it. Other questions about anything so far? Awesome. All right. Other tiny things, audio clip mixer. If some of your clips are too loud, you can manually come over here and turn them up or down. So if I unmute this one, you can see right here.
Ready at action. Ready at action.
And turn that down, it turns down a little bit. If it's not doing exactly what you want, you can also right click on your audio, come over to audio gain. And this works kind of as a plus or minus system. So if you're like, this is way too loud, I can do like a -3 or -2. I prefer to work in 2s. That way, if I mess up, I can add it back easily. So I can do -2 here. You'll see it a little bit quieter on its timeline here. A good rule of thumb with your audio gain, you can watch it here or here, is to try to have it about the loudest it gets at 12. So you can see the loudest that one got was about 12. That's about standard for audio. A lot of times online on YouTube, if you've ever been watching a video and there's just like a random thing that's way too loud, it's because they didn't change their audio for that one clip. Just by changing that one thing so that it's below 12 and keeping all of yours at about that 12-ish range will make your audio sound 10 times better than other things. This is why sometimes when you're watching TV and there's like 5 or 6 different commercials and one commercial comes in and you've got your like TV set to like 10 or something because you're trying to watch it late at night and it comes in and it sounds like it's suddenly at 50, it's because whoever made that commercial didn't change their audio. They left it really loud. So we want to make sure all of your audio is about the same. So if I unmute this top one and we watch this one,
Tell me when you're
high
like,
peaks here. See how we're going closer to 6 and 0? See how loud that one is compared to the next one? If we right click that, change its audio gain to -2, you'll see your waveform go down slowly, and we can watch it here.
Action.
And it'll slowly tick down the more gain you remove. Now we can do that in the opposite direction. I won't hit play because Lord help me. But if I take in mind that I'm -2 under in our decibel range and say I want to go up 6, which will take us to 0 plus 4. Just kind of watch this. I'm not going to hit play. It'll be so loud. It clips out really high. The highest point of this, you see it automatically like went to the super like red, not fun location. So just be aware when you're working with your audio. Take that just back down to normal, to the 0. You want to try to keep all of your audio as level as possible. And then metadata over here, this is kind of cool. This is just like all of your file properties. So if I click on feet here, you'll see this one's name is feet, just because that's what's right here. Its label is blue. It's a media type movie, all this stuff. If you want to embed a script or captions into this, or if you're importing something that has captions, it'll automatically put it in the metadata. It's really neat. And then you can write scripts and stuff to make it automatically pick up audio and things like that in here. Okay, so let's say you're done with your homework Your homework itself, like I said, is just to take all of these clips. I don't know if I fully said it or not. Your homework is to take all these clips that I've given you. There's some, I think, audio files that may or may not have been given with you as well. Put them in order in a story of your choosing. You don't have to use all of them, but use at least 4 to make some sort of story in here, and then export it as an MP4 H.264. To do that, out of Premiere, you want to make sure your timeline is highlighted blue. If it is not blue, if up here is blue, or over here is blue, or over here is blue, so you see a blue highlight right here, you will not export. It will be like, okay, and just not do anything. You want to make sure your timeline is what is blue. Then you come up here to File, Export Media. This is that media encoder video exporting that we looked at from After Effects that you guys probably used to export if you didn't bring it into Premiere the render sequence way. So from here, you should automatically have this H.264 as your default format. If it comes in as AVI or something like that, you just want to make sure you change it. Good rule of thumb, remember, is it's the one with the Blu-ray, but not the Blu-ray one. Or it's also the only one that ends in 4. The output name, or these blue letters, is what is it being saved as. I'm just going to save mine as Premiere Export. With this specific homework, if you don't want to export the audio, you don't have to. I'm not even going to pay attention to it because I know the audio is all weird and wonky. You can turn off export audio right here. If for whatever reason you just needed to export audio, you could also just export the audio. I don't know why you would do that, but you could. So I'm just going to turn off export audio. All of these standard effects, video, audio, multiplex, captions, and publish should all be okay for this class. When you get up into one of the higher classes, we'll talk more about encoding and compression and things like that. But for now, just the standard buttons are okay. The only one you want to make sure you hit is this max render quality. Because you want the best quality you can on a render, and it doesn't add too much time. It's like seconds compared to minutes. From here, you can hit Q if you want. Q is the one that's highlighted because it really wants you to use that media encoder Q. But since you don't have to, we're not having to be forced to use encoder Q, kind of like we were with After Effects. We can just export, so we can just click export right here. It'll do its thing, and you'll be done. Questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How are you so cool? That's it.
Skill.
I felt bad because nobody was asking you questions. So.
It's skill. Just skill.
All right. Understood.
All right, so I'm going to mute these. One other tip and tidbit that you might need to know for continuity, sometimes when people are filming, they film a shot going in one direction and they film the next shot going in an opposite direction, but the person is still supposed to be going in that same direction. If that ever happens, for whatever reason, I know there's a clip in here that does this. If you go to effects, you can type in flip, and there's a horizontal flip. So if right here, like this clip where she's coming through, on this clip, if we wanted her to be on the other side or just reversed, we could use this horizontal flip on this clip, and she'll now be on the opposite side. So if you do need to know that, just be aware there is a flip in here, so you can flip it on the opposite direction. Any other questions?
If you use the input and output, does it just restrict the effect of that zone?
Say it one more time. You're real quiet.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
If you use the input and output marker things, does it just restrict the effect to that area?
No. So the input output is more of a hey, I want to only really focus from here to here. Even if I were to hit play, it'll still play outside of this marker.
Yeah.
But it allows you to see that area a little bit better.
Okay, so it's just visual then.
Yeah, it's more of a visual thing.
All right.
It used to a long time ago just play that section, and you could
Yeah.
also just export that section. But they've done something in the past like 5 years that's changed that a little bit. So
Yeah.
it used to be it would just play from here to here, so you could really focus on something. But now it's more visual than anything.
Okay.
All right. If there's no other questions, that's all we have. The exercise 2, double identity, which is just all of these files, is due by next class, not Friday, but Monday. Friday is a work day, so if you do have questions, you can pop in on Friday, and I'll help you out. But if you don't have any questions and you're good, you may definitely leave if you want to. If you need to go find some lunch, take a nap, find a puppy to cuddle, whatever you need to do, you are free.
Have a good day, everyone. Be
See you.
safe. Wear your
See ya.
mask or else.
Have a good day.